Hello, and welcome to our program, Astronomy for Everyone. The topic for this month's show is a look at some of the top astronomy stories of 2024, with Astronomy's February edition helping inspire this show. With me in the first segment to talk about a few of these topics are Ken and Stephen. Guys, glad to have you on the set.
Thanks,
Glad
Don.
to be back.
We're going to start out talking about the fantastic auroral displays we had last year, and Ken will tell us about that.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at some iPhone photos that I did from Wixom and Novi, and these are of auroras. And so this one is one my daughter took, and I think it kind of looks like a dragon, so it's one of my favorite ones. And then we can go look at some more. So this one looks like a wilted flower, and you can go on, and it's going to progress into something that looks like an ape or King Kong. So you can see it's starting to look like King Kong. And so while these are going up, so I'll give you a background. So this year was like one of the best 2 years of my life for auroras. And in May, there was a sunspot AR3664. It had 6 coronal mass ejections, giving off plasma in 2 to 3 days. And it brought the auroras up to G4 and G5 levels, like on May 10th. So when you see in green, you're seeing excited oxygen, and when you see the red, you're seeing excited nitrogen. And so you're getting really impressive auroras. What made this year so special is it's like the first time they had auroras with of this level with iPhones and Facebook and YouTube, so everybody's able to share them on the internet instantaneously. And so the last time we had a G4 was 20 years ago, and the last time we had a G5 was in 2003. So great year for auroras.
Well, that's quite a spread in time to have something that strong. I know I tried to look at them from my house, and with the light pollution that I've got, I couldn't make out anything.
So out of the two that they had, the first one was dim. Naked eye, it kind of looked grayish. You could see a little bit of pink or green, but the iPhone really popped it out. The other one was very bright. You could see it with the naked eye.
Yeah, I couldn't see anything naked eye at all at my house. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, so I got to see green and red in the August one. I don't know what happened to May for me. It was great, but I didn't see it. But anyway, yeah, some green and red, and I got some phone pictures of it, and I have a larger camera, and I got brighter, etc., because it's a bigger lens. But I didn't have a tripod, so they're awful. So anyway,
oh, no.
Yeah, but I have some decent phone pictures.
Yeah, the ones you got with your iPhone, Ken, are really good.
Yeah, I was really impressed. It was a great year.
Yeah, yep. Maybe we'll get some more. Who knows?
I think we will, because the sun's on an 11-year cycle, and we're at the maximum of that cycle. So we probably can expect more until it flips, because the magnetic fields get all tied up in knots, and when they snap, you get these coronal mass ejections.
Especially with solar
flares.
maximum too.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's a look at the auroras that we had the chance to look at. Next, Stephen, you're going to tell us about the moon's exosphere.
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so moon's exosphere. We have an atmosphere on Earth, and you can wave your hand and you can sort of feel it. But on the moon, an exosphere is more like you have individual molecules or atoms on their own trajectory, and they're doing their own thing pretty much. So there's not very many of them is the key. So what we wanted to know, and we wanted to know for quite a long time, is what causes it to have an exosphere at all? Why doesn't the solar wind strip it off of the moon? Well, in order for it to have to be there, something has to continually make it, and there are two things that should do that. One is that the solar wind, the ions from the solar wind, should sort of pick up little bits of the moon and launch them into little orbits or little whatever.
Lift them up off the surface.
Lift them off the surface.
Yeah.
They should ionize them, and then you have, they should just sort of float around because you've got, negative and negatives or something like that.
Plus very low gravity,
electrical,
too, yeah.
and lower gravity, yeah. And then the other thing is that you could have micrometeors strike bits of the lunar soil, or rocks for that matter, and chip away atoms or molecules, and they would then fly up and stuff. But which of these is correct? Well, NASA has the LADEE mission, LADEE. It orbits the moon. I think it's still up. And it has provided data on the moon's exosphere. It's designed to do that. So the ion sputtering and the micrometeors. So researchers figured that a meteor hitting the moon would throw lighter isotopes up into the exosphere, and while the heavier ones would stay in the ground. They would stay put.
There wasn't enough energy to lift them up off the surface.
That's right. So could they go into space? Well, maybe they could, but in any case, so if you're looking at the exosphere, and you do that by looking at the edge of the moon from wherever you are in orbit, then you should be able to tell what what the if you've got the right equipment on, and they do. You should be able to tell what the isotopes are. They'll give off a spectrum.
Exactly.
So what they did was they measured the ratios between the light elements and the heavy elements that they were expecting, and they came up with an interesting result, which is that the micrometeorites account for 70% of the exosphere, while the ion sputtering is the other 30%.
Interesting that they could differentiate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that was the big news on the moon exosphere. And
So while the moon does not have an atmosphere, as we know it,
that's right.
it does have its exosphere.
Exosphere.
Right.
Mercury has an exosphere too.
Interesting, good to know. Yeah, the same things
Same
would be
effect.
happening there.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. Well, the last topic that we're going to have in this first segment is we're going to talk about 2024's solar eclipse. Now, it was an amazing event. An estimated 31 million people lived within the path of totality, which, unlike 2017, it included Mexico, the United States, and Canada. Now, they had predicted widespread cloudiness along the entire path across the continent, but for the most part, it cleared up quite nicely with no clouds at all, or at most very high, thin clouds, except for where I was. I was up in Rochester, New York, staying at my cousin's house. Her house was just a mile or so off the center line of the path of totality. Talk about being in the right place at the right time. Yeah, well, not so much. It was clear till just after about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the heavy clouds rolled in, stayed socked in for the entire time of totality, and then those clouds finally rolled out right around 6 p.m. So I had about 7 minutes of totality in total heavy clouds. But it was still interesting because the birds got real quiet, so there was that at least. Well, in addition, even though I couldn't see it, NASA did fund a number of scientific projects during the eclipse, including eclipse chasing high altitude jets and studies of the effects of the sun's shadow on the Earth's atmosphere. So all in all, a very successful event. We're going to take a quick break. If you have a question, please send us an email. You can see that email address down at the bottom of your screen. And we'll be back with the second segment of this show right after Term of the Month with Stephen.
Thanks, Don. The term of the month is Aniapotia. The exoplanet GJ12b, named Aniapotia, was discovered by transit at the end of 2009 at 48 light-years away in Ophiuchus. From Hubble Space Telescope data in 2012, it is a super-Earth with 8 times the Earth's mass and orbits its star at 1.4% of the distance between the Earth and the Sun, and so it's pretty hot. The atmosphere seemed likely water-rich, suggesting a global ocean. It is still mysterious, and there are many other ideas for what it could be. The current Wikipedia entry has much on this mystery, on these ideas. Aniapotia means large body of water in the Masaya language. In 2023, the International Astronomical Union gave this interesting exoplanet the name Aniapotia. But with help from the James Webb Space Telescope, the smart money is now on Aniapotia having a carbon dioxide atmosphere. So it sounds a lot like a super Venus, a brand new class of object. And that is term of the month, Aniapotia. Back to you, Don.
Thanks, Stephen. Welcome back. We're going to be continuing our discussion of some of the top 10 astronomy stories from 2024. And we'll start this segment talking about the Starliner capsule problem. We've added our teammate John to this segment. So, John, can you fill us in on that situation?
Yeah, that's we'll start in the spring of last year, and there was a couple months of trying to get the Starliner off the ground, and there was mechanical problems and ground system problems, and finally in June of 2024, it finally launched, and it had Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmer as the astronauts that were on that mission. And they ended up arriving at the space station the next day. And when they were docking, they had problems with the thrusters. And the thrusters, they overheated, and they didn't come up to full performance. And that created a major concern because those thrusters, they use those for re-entry. They steer this capsule, and also they change the angle of approach so that we can do the deorbit burn and come into the atmosphere.
Come in at it on the right angle and not come in too steep or hit the atmosphere, bounce off, and
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's so that was a major concern. So NASA, they started to do an investigation, and they were going over all kind of different scenarios and trying to see whether they were going to bring the astronauts home on that crippled Starliner. And they had a news conference, and they made the decision that it was too risky. And so they made plans, and they were going to send up a SpaceX Crew Dragon to basically rescue the astronauts. But the Crew Dragon, the next one that was going to be going up that they could get ready to pick up the astronauts wasn't going to be until September. So what they did was instead of having a normal crew of 4, they made it they only sent up 2 astronauts, and then, so they had room for the other 2 to come back.
2 empty seats, right.
And they had to have special spacesuits made for them and taken up, because you can't use the spacesuits from the Boeing Starliner in the SpaceX Crew Dragon. So there's a lot of things they had to get in order. And so anyways, yeah.
So when are they coming home, or what's the situation there?
Okay, so what's going on is they were supposed to come home this month in February here now. And the whole, I guess, what's going on with the Starliner not being able to be certified, that's created a bottleneck with the crew rotations and the amount of certified spacecraft we have, because SpaceX only has 2 certified to go to the space station now. So one's at the space station, so they have one that they have to refurbish, and they haven't been able to get that refurbished yet, so now it's pushed till March. So they're probably not going to be home at the earliest of March this year.
March of this year, wow. As I recall, though, they did send that Starliner capsule back to Earth, and it did land safely.
It did land safely, but there was problems with that. Again, they
really?
thought they had the problem with the thrusters fixed, but no, they still had problems coming down. And actually, there was a lot of excess heat that got built up, and it could have gotten pretty warm in that capsule if there was astronauts in there.
Oh my. So March before we can get them home.
Yep.
But they're keeping busy up there?
Oh yeah, that's they're keeping busy. They're doing talking with their family, and they're doing talks with students at schools.
We got some experiments up there they can do?
Yeah, and they're taking care of maintenance items that need to be, done, just general maintenance. And Sunny Williams, she's even got to go and leave the space capsule and break her cabin fever by doing a spacewalk.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so this was her 8th spacewalk. So
Oh, good
yeah.
for her.
And then Butch Wilmore, he became the commander of the International Space Station for a few months. So that was
Okay.
another big thing.
Wow.
And another way that they keep busy is by going to the cupola. And the cupola, that's like a bay window on the space station, so they get to see the Earth going underneath them and stuff. And when I've talked to other astronauts, that's one of the things that they really wish they had more time to do, because there's never enough time allotted to just relax on the space station. But
I'll bet. Well, it sounds like they've got it under control, and it'll be good to get them back, that's for sure. Next, we're going to cover another topic on the moon. Stephen's going to be talking about robotic moon landings. Stephen.
Yeah, so in 2024, there were 3 attempts for moon landings.
Robotic.
Robotic moon missions. One was Peregrine Mission 1, and it was unsuccessful. It didn't make it. But that was the first of the launches under NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services program. So that it didn't make it was, unfortunate, certainly. And then we had IM-1. So this is Intuitive Machines.
They had a mission about a year or so prior to 2024, I think.
It had the first commercial soft landing. So it landed. When it touched down, the lander tipped about 30 degrees. So it didn't fall over, and all of the equipment was still functional. So it was a total mission success. But there was a, it looked like it was about to fall over.
Yeah.
30 degrees is a lot. Anyway, and then another exciting Chinese mission, Chang'e 6. So this was a sample return mission. So Chang'e 6 landed on the moon, and it scooped up some dirt and rocks and stuff. not a whole lot, but and brought it back to Earth. So that has actually made it back to Earth successfully.
Was that the mission that went to the far side of the moon? Or am I
believe
thinking
so.
of another
Yeah.
one?
No, I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So the Russians had done a robotic mission in like '72. To do a sample return, so they got a few grams. It's not a heck of a lot, but they got a little bit of dirt, whereas the Apollo astronauts had gotten hundreds of pounds total between them, between the 6 missions that were successful. It was like 700 pounds or something. It was quite a bit.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And we're still doing stuff with it. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so it was kind of busy moon landing robotics set this past year.
Did the NASA mission crash on the moon, or do you know what happened to that?
The Peregrine mission, you mean?
Peregrine, yeah.
Yeah, I really don't know. I really don't know how it crashed exactly. I don't know what the cause is or anything, but
Well,
yeah,
the bad news is it isn't working. The good news is there wasn't anybody on it.
that's right.
So that's the best news of
Yeah.
all. For our final topic for the news of 2024, we're going to talk about some of the discoveries by the James Webb Space Telescope. Now, this telescope never ceases to amaze me. As much as I was amazed by Hubble, and Hubble still amazes me, the James Webb is just a whole nother thing. Actually, there are so many discoveries and so little time. It did capture evidence for a neutron star created after the explosion of SN 1987A in the Large Magellanic Cloud. You can see the picture here. The Webb was able to pick up ionized gas glow that was caused by high energy protons that actually knocked off electrons in the material that was blown off in the explosions. Now, scientists studying this ionized gas stated that there's only a few things that could cause this to happen, and all of them involve the development of a brand new neutron star. In other words, the star that was left over after the explosion. So that was quite interesting. Next, the James Webb helped get a weather report from a gas giant planet that orbits WASP 39. As a matter of fact, it's 39b, and it's 280 light years away. So imagine getting a weather report, right? Now, they did this by using light from the host star that filtered through this exoplanet's atmosphere. And using info from the observation along with 3D climate models, they determined that this planet has a cloudy night side, a clear day side, and equatorial winds approaching 5,000 miles an hour. And we thought we had it windy here, right? So that was quite interesting. And finally, in the Serpens Nebula that we can see on the screen here, the Webb observed aligned jets from a group of forming stars. Now, this indicates that the stars, were born in the same molecular cloud and that they rotate all in the same direction, which is something that scientists had long suspected. Now, the Webb observed about 20 protostars with their jets all aligned within about 24 degrees of the filament of this cloud that they formed from. So that's a very quick look at some of these top astronomy stories from 2024. To check out more information and a few more stories, check out the February issue of Astronomy Magazine. I'd like to thank my guests on this program. Please check out our club website. The address is down there at the bottom of your screen. And to close things out, coming up with What's Up in the Night Sky is Stephen.
Thanks, Don. What's up in the night sky for February 2024? The days change faster as we get closer to the equinox. The days change the fastest at the equinox. February starts with a first quarter moon on February 5th, and then full moon on the 12th, third quarter on the 20th, and a new moon, which you won't see, on the 27th. Thanks to Jay Starbel for the moon pictures. Then we have Venus, Mercury, and Saturn. Saturn is in Aquarius and sets 3 hours after sunset to an hour after sunset. This is on the 18th of February. Mercury is in Capricornus and goes to Pisces over the month, so at the beginning of the month it rises at sunrise, pretty much, and sets about an hour after sunset at the end of the month. And that's because this switch from morning to evening is because there's superior conjunction on February 9th. So Mercury is going to be so much easier at the end of the month to see. And then Venus is in Pisces and sets from 3 hours after sunset to 2.5 hours after sunset. Venus is behaving weirdly as usual. Finally, we have Mars, Jupiter, and Uranus shown here on the 6th of February at basically local midnight. So Mars is in Gemini and sets from an hour before sunrise to 3 hours before sunrise. Opposition was in late January, so Mars is up most of the night. Jupiter is in Taurus and sets from 4 hours before sunrise to 6 hours before sunrise. And then Uranus is in Aries and sets from 5 hours before sunrise to 7 hours before sunrise. There are 2 more planets, Neptune and Pluto. Neptune is in Pisces and Pluto is in Capricornus. But they're both very close to the Sun, and they're both very faint. In Pluto's case, it's very faint. So you shouldn't be looking at the Sun with big optics. You could do some other time of year. My favorite for Pluto is August now. Opposition is in July, but at least in the north here, the nights are longer in August. And that is what's up in the night sky for February 2025. We don't charge money for this show, but we may tax your brain.